embodiment of oneness, is a guiding force for many. Born in the 15th century, Guru Nanak glided across distant lands for over 2 decades on an altruistic pursuit. To relate with people of diverse cultures and belief systems, he engaged in philosophical and social dialogue. Through the medium of words and music, he gracefully imparted experiential insights, fearlessly challenged the binary constructs of society, and relentlessly opposed gender, religious, racial, and class inequalities. Today, in the 21st century, geopolitical restrictions and cultural mandates impose immense challenges to trace Guru Nanak's extensive travels.
My name is Amardeep Singh. I retrace the life events of Guru Nanak as narrated in the earliest historical texts.
We navigate through Punjab, the land of the 5 rivers, and travel to the Sundarbans Delta, sail across the ocean to the Sangladeep Island, scale the Himalayas to reach the region of Meru Mountain, and trudge the dunes to cross the deserts of Hejaz. Guided by Guru Nanak, who saw no stranger, our team remains internally borderless while navigating through physical borders.
गुरु नानक देव जी ने हम लोग परमपिता परमात्मा का नाम बताया। उनका नाम एक ओम, सारा संसार असत्य है, परमात्मा सिर्फ एक सत्य है।
He had his own message of oneness of humanity, and that cut across all regions, all caste barriers, all religions.
دا بابناکو چې په کوبل په پېښور ګرځېدو دا ارمندو کې لاړو څوک په یوازې دي څوک په بل
कोई सी बात बोले कि आप में और मेरे में क्या अंतर है
530 years ago coming, on uncharted lands, he didn't know the language, but still making such a big impact, an impact which not only had permanence, which was carried on.
ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਨਸਾਨੀਅਤ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਮਜ਼ਹਬ ਹੈ ਇਨਸਾਨੀਅਤ ਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਉਹ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਉਹੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਉਹੀ ਕੀਤਾ
Narratives associated with Guru Nanak's voyages are embedded with philosophical expositions that aid the mind's alchemy. Akin to the unraveling of an allegory, anecdotes from his travels evoke insights that facilitate navigation through the mist of life. Allegory, a tapestry of Guru Nanak's travels, a 24-episode docu-series. Join me in this humble attempt to understand Guru Nanak, an embodiment of oneness.
Hello and welcome to PTV World Special. I'm Farokh Pitafi. We have been talking about global politics and various other aspects of today. In this program, on this channel, we have been discussing how today's world is divided. And while there are faiths that talk about unity of deity, still it seems that humanity still remains divided. But what if there was a message that could actually unite the people, not only the concept of God or religion? So our today's program is about a documentary about a man, the founder of Sikhism, Baba Guru Nanak. This documentary actually does a lot of service to the idea of humanity, unity of purpose, unity of humanity. And while it does it, it also helps us understand, actually separate philosophy from ideology, humanity from myths and legends, and of course The Quest from Inquest. We are going to talk about this. This is a 24-part documentary that actually has covered Baba Guru Nanak's steps across 9 countries very extensively. Visually also it is stunning. You must have seen the clips that have been actually aired so far. We are going to talk about this, and in order to help us understand what actually went into this effort, how this concept actually materialized, and what is the basic concept or message of this documentary, the programs or the documentary's host and executive director and director, Amardeep Singh, joins us from Singapore via Skype. Thank you very much, Amardeep Singh ji. Thank you very much for being part of the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Farooq, for giving me the opportunity, and to the PTV and to the establishment of Pakistan for giving us this opportunity to speak to everyone. Thank you.
Right. Amardeep Singh ji, it is a great pleasure because for a Pakistani, it is a great honor to realize that the origin of this faith, the origin of Baba Guru Nanak is from this land. So we are going to talk about this, but let me first start by asking you, what actually took you to this project? Because I've seen other documentaries, I've seen books being written as well, but what is the story behind making of this documentary?
It's a very good question to start with, Farooq. Let me put a counter question to this, right? Why shouldn't it be done, right? That's the first question. Because when you look at the world, your biggest media houses, the production houses around the world, have created documentary series on noted personalities like Alexander the Great. And I always have thought, sorry, what was his greatness? Help me understand. Conquering nations, killing people, looting, and on that greatness of suppressing humanity, we find a story that's worthy enough to be told to the world. We look at Columbus, who went in search for the Indian subcontinent and landed up in America. It was his personal quest to make wealth, trade, and we find it worthy enough a story to be made into a documentary. On Netflix, there's a documentary, multi-episode documentary on Marco Polo. What did he travel for? He traveled for trade, personal gains. And here's a person from the soil of Pakistan who did not travel for any personal gain. 22 years he traveled as an embodiment of oneness with his lifelong friend Bhai Mardana, a Muslim rabab player. Just Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana traveling together, displaying the unity of mankind in every step that they took together. And he went across 9 nations. He has traveled more than Alexander the apostrophe great, whom we call the world sees him as great. And this is the person who went to more than 150 multi-faith sites across 9 nations. All he was doing was engaging with spiritualists on the concept of oneness of mankind, which he writes in his first word of his Japji Sahib, in which the Granth Sahib opens up the 6th scripture, in which he writes, he puts a numeral 1. And 1 is not about a denotion to God or to a deity. Oneness out here in the concept of Guru Nanak means the oneness of the entire creation. The God figure, humanity, or the messengers of God cannot be separated in Guru Nanak's concept. If I am going to emanate a certain energy, you are going to get affected because of that. You are going to do something, your family is going to get affected. We are all interrelated. And therefore, that message, doesn't it deserve an attention of the world? That's what
it does. It does. Absolutely. And what I found really fascinating was not only the message resonates with the realities of today, especially in the 15th, 16th century, when the Indian society was so divided because of casteism, because of linear and patrilineal divisions. At that time, such a message must have really, really worked wonders. Let me now ask you to walk us through the process of making this documentary. I've seen the 5 available episodes, And what I found was that there was meticulous research, and that you actually went everywhere and you dug the facts out. Now tell me, how much time did it take and how much effort went into it?
Farooq, so before I answer that question, let me just bring the attention of the audience to the place where this docu-series is available. It's, if you want to see this, just go to the website called The Guru Nanak, THE, the gurunanak.com. Don't write just gurunanak.com. You have to write before that the gurunanak.com. Go there,
You
see the
actually
episodes.
have preempted a question that I had, because I'm going to actually talk about this as well. But I'm glad that you have highlighted the website too.
Yeah.
Later on, I have a question particularly about this as well. But first,
Right.
let me ask
Yeah.
you about the effort.
The process and the effort. So you can see that 5 episodes are already there. Every week we are releasing 1 episode, and it will continue for the 24 episodes. With that as the background, let me tell you the process. This project, the aim actually has been to understand the philosophy of Guru Nanak, the message of Guru Nanak. Let me put it this way, that the documentary, the physical explorations are in some ways a subtle excuse to attract the attention of the audience. If you can create a National Geographic kind of a material, get the attention of the audience, and then through that, we start, through an interfaith narrative, we start telling what Guru Nanak was conveying as a message of oneness. That's the objective. Now, when you take on a process like this to be created, which has got multiple sites, 150 sites across 9 nations. In today's world, traveling between one nation and the second nation itself is filled with so much of visa problems. Filming with big cameras as a foreign national, you would know that you are in the media, how challenging it can get. And then thereafter, taking a narrative and tying it down, the musical elements, because Guru Nanak has written every message of his is in music. Right, the entire rag systems, and trying to sing that in the rags that he has written. This is a massive project. The process is such that it cannot be done by one person. There's a huge team that's worked behind it, but the team is not the types that typically a National Geographic or BBC or a Discovery Channel would work at. We are a lean, very passionate team, and the process does not start in 2018 October. It does not start then when theoretically I can say I decided to do this project in October 2018, because deep inside for 30 years I have been delving into the history of the Indus region. I have been living my life in the Indus region, which today is divided between India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, because my forefathers were from there. Right? I was born in Gorakhpur, but my mind was in there. I've read the history, I've read our cultures, I've read about philosophies of different faiths, and all these layers have added on to come to a quest as to Guru Nanak's narrative needs to be told to the world. And that actually only materialized in 2018 when we decided, after having done I was in the corporate world. I spent 25 years in American Express, and I was living a very different life. In 2014, when I left the corporate world, I was basically going to get transferred to Australia. I chose not to go, but the process starts in 2014, not about the project, but somewhere else it starts. Because for 30 years I was reading and I was delving into various skill sets. But in 2014, when I left, this desire inside me came in. I've got a break in my life. Should I not go to my forefathers' place, my father's place, my mother's place? My father was from Muzaffarabad, my mother was from Ahmedabad. They are no more in this world, and they could never go there. Do I have can I fulfill their desire? And that took me to Pakistan. I went to Pakistan first time in my life at the age of 48 years. But all these layers were there in my mind. And when I reached Pakistan, I must thank the people of Pakistan who embraced me. At this point of time, Farooq, I can say I've got a brother, sister, son, daughter at every place in Pakistan. Right? And me and my wife have got it. But in these days, in 2014, when we went inside, it's the love of the people of the country that embraced us and took us from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Kashmir, Baltistan, Sindh, Balochistan, as well as Pakistan's Punjab, that I did these 2 books called Lost Heritage, The Sikh Legacy in Pakistan, and The Quest Continues, Lost Heritage, The Sikh Legacy in Pakistan, in which I documented the remnants of my community, both physical and cultural aspects in 126 cities and villages. That kind of gave me the confidence to understand. And then I posed this question in 2018. And the process started by first taking all the sites across 9 nations, because this is a multi-faith narrative. So when I'm saying the sites, well, for instance, Guru Nanak went to Mashhad, right? So in Imam Ali Raza's site, I need to bring in that site. How do I tie it into Guru Nanak's narrative based on the oldest historical texts? He went to Makkah, Medina. He went to Baghdad. He went to Jagannath Temple. He went to Mansarovar Kailash in Tibet. We have to bring in all those sites, natural sites, the places of worship, and then bring in the story inside. And all this cannot happen if you just decide one day to do it. You should have actually studied this for long enough, and it should have been embedded inside. That's where it started. And the process required us to engage teams of videographers, musicians across borders. I'll stop there and maybe we can talk about it more.
Right. And while looking at the documentary, I realized that it wasn't merely 150 sites. For example, you're actually tracing all the steps. So repeatedly you point out that you're crossing or crisscrossing the border between India and Pakistan, sometime there, sometime here. And that's why I actually talked about the effort. But tell me about the research that went into it, because I've seen many texts, and it seems that your grasp on facts and the surety with which you actually communicate this is unprecedented regarding the subject.
No, it's a very important question that you asked, and one of the reasons why we are approaching it the way we are approaching it, it needs to be understood from the fact that, you see, all narratives of the leaders of any faith are generally written by the men who follow that faith much later, right? That's what happens. Now, we've got to understand Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana, when they traveled together, you have to accept the fact that they have written nothing about their life. Unlike Jahangir, who writes Tuzak-e Jahangiri, unlike Babur, who writes Babur Nama, these are people on the worldly scale, and they do write the stories. A person in the spiritual realm is not interested about his or her story, and Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana wrote nothing about their life. What they wrote is a large repository of spiritual verses, which actually continue to motivate millions of people around the world on how they should live their life, right? So he's written a large amount of spiritual verses in various Rag systems. But if you look at that, all you can get is to understand what's Guru Nanak's mind. And you can just try and unravel that to understand what is Guru Nanak's thinking. But you can't tell a story based on that thinking as to where did he and Bhai Mardana go. Now, the point is, when you are doing a research like this, today you've got to understand what's happening. In today's world, we are living in a world of one-upmanship. Every faith wants to prove that they are better than the others. And I don't think Guru Nanak ever intended that. This is about oneness, right? And therefore, even in the people who have written Guru Nanak's faith, the people who follow him have been sending him left, right, center, everywhere. In today's WhatsApp university, Facebook university, you open up a Gurdwara somewhere and a few years later, Guru Nanak appears there. Is that the story that we are focused on? No, we are not focused on that. So you have to go back and look at the earliest text, 65 years after Guru Nanak's life. The first text that gets documented is by Bhai Gurdas, who writes with assurance, and he's at the time of the Sikhs have had 10 gurus. So he's at the time of the succession of the gurus that's going on. And so there's a lot of authenticity in his work. And he's writing that Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana, only two people, traveled far and wide. They went to Makkah, Baghdad, they went to Kailash Parbat, they went to Jagannath, and so on and so forth. But he does not tell a large story that can become a docuseries. Now, about 100 years after his life, till about 150 years after his life, a lot of people, still the Sikh gurus are there, the lineage is there, start writing about his stories in large bodies of text, what we call as Janam Sakhis. Janam is birth, Sakhis is stories. About his life stories. Like in the Buddhist tradition, you have the Jatakas, which are Buddha's life stories. Similar, these life stories are written. Now, you take that in earliest repository of work, what you find is there are a lot of similarities, but there are also disconnects, right? And at the end of the day, you've got to keep this in mind. These are men of faith writing. There has to be biases in it, right? You have to accept that. But when a person writes, they write with their own thinking. So they actually weave stories around it. Now, you have to look at the stories with the anvil of what Guru Nanak's messaging is in his verses, and you have to tie them down.
And the amazing part, Singh ji, is that when we are listening to you, you are actually recreating the dialogue. May it be Kanpata, Jogis, may it be others, whatever was going on, you are repeatedly telling us what was the central message. While investigating and researching, did you get it all from these texts or from oral tradition as well?
That's why I've just to conclude that earlier one, and this answer will come out in there itself. So we looked at the first 150 years of his texts, right, after his life, and that body of text. The interesting thing is there are only two people traveling. After 150 years, there's a huge body of text that starts appearing, which is known as Bala Janam Sakhi. And in that, there's a third person who starts traveling. Now, that itself should tell you that the narrative is expanding. And there are many versions of Bala Janam Sakhi that have appeared. And in that, now 3 people are traveling. So we have chosen, we don't want to go to the latter text. We will draw a line at the earliest text, 150. We will assimilate that. But our focus is to understand, what did Guru Nanak say or communicate in Multan? What did he say in, let's take Ajmer Sharif, or what did he say in Mathura, and so forth. Those are the crux of the storytelling. And then just take the first 150 years of text, and you find only 2 people are traveling, and just build the entire narrative on that. To be honest, right, Farooq, I can tell you, I don't know where Guru Nanak has traveled. I will be upfront. No one knows it, because Guru Nanak has written nothing about his life. But then, does that mean you will not try and understand based on the earliest texts as to what his philosophy is? And that's what we're trying to do.
Right. And philosophy actually comes out brilliantly through your work. Regarding the cinematography, I felt that while you were actually focusing on the message, the visuals, their choices, the way you actually made the documentary, and earlier you were comparing yourself or contrasting that unlike National Geographic, you had a very lean team. But then I noticed a couple of things. Quality of visuals, their matching with the message or communication was brilliant. And then the music component as well. So who was actually deciding which shots to actually take, how to make this and how to present it?
Now, that's a very good question. I'll tell you, this entire project, it's a massive project. We have struggled to raise funding. We have many times gone into red in the balance sheet while doing the projects. We've been stuck in a country and our balance sheet has gone negative, and then we've had to find ways to kind of raise money, because it's not a commercial project. If you see it, we've actually put it on the website freely for all. So there was always an objective of making it non-commercially available, but a project of this magnitude does need a lot of money. And your question is about the team. Well, everyone needs bread and butter. But what we have been very fortunate about is we have got a very passionate team, a very lean, very, very thin team, but very passionate people. And we started off, our talent predominantly is a lot of Pakistani talent inside this. And let me actually, I salute the Pakistani talent who actually embraced this project as their own project, right? We've had near life threatening opportunities in doing this project, right? And each one has given their best. But let me start with the cinematography. First and foremost, across 9 countries, you will have a problem in this narrative that Pakistani team will not be allowed to operate in India and Bangladesh. And so we had to operate with a team out of India and Bangladesh, India to do the India-Bangladesh piece. But the team out of the cinematography team out of Pakistan, which is our main cinematographer, was Salman Alam Khan. And Salman Alam Khan is our son. I will not say like our son. He is our son, right? And he actually has done the entire cinematography across 7 countries, which is Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Tibet, as well as Sri Lanka. He traveled with us, me and my wife, for more than 15 months, right? So, and the question is, how are you doing the videography? Well, the problem in this narrative is that you can't plan everything. It's a documentary. It's not like a movie. You're not going and staging things. You're not planning your steps. You have a narrative. You are going in 550 years after Guru Nanak's time, and you're just capturing as much of data as you can. Storytelling happens later on. And for the last 14, 15 months, we have an editor who has come to Singapore from Pakistan. He's from Rajanpur in South Punjab, but he's been doing editing work in Islamabad. We were very fortunate to get this, again, a very motivated young lad who has been with us in Singapore. We brought him to Singapore, and he's done the entire stitching of 50 terabytes of data, which has been filmed over 18 months. And this, all that vision, they say in filmmaking, you may have the best of data, but if you can't stitch it together in the seamless manner, the editing is where everything can fall flat. So we are very fortunate that Kamran Muhammad Fazal, who's also from Pakistan, has built this entire narrative from raw data. So Pakistan has got some great talent. And having said that, and also I want to actually give credit to the fact that we have had Deepak Verma and Pramod from India who worked with us in India and Bangladesh, where there's a huge narrative there also. But the entire editing has been done by Kamran Fazal. Having said that, I don't want to miss out on one other element. Music is a huge component of this docuseries. Yeah. Guru Nanak's entire message, his philosophy is in music, right? Yeah. And there are two streams running inside this. Allow me just to share this because it's a very important thing I'm sharing. There are two streams running inside this. One is what the texts tell us about Guru Nanak, what did he say at every site? Whether it's the Nath Jogi traditions with whom he was actually the Kanfatta Jogis with whom he was having a dialogue, what did he say in Afghanistan, what did he say in Pakistan, wherever he says something, a male voice, we are not showing Guru Nanak, but a male voice responds in the spiritual verses when Guru Nanak is having a dialogue. And that singing in the respective rag is done by Satninder Singh Bodal, a Sikh from East Punjab, who has represented Guru Nanak's singing. But keep in mind that this is the very important thing that I'm telling you from a Pakistan perspective. There was a person in me traveling 550 years after Guru Nanak's life in the contemporary times. My soul is also on a journey. And in this journey, it is reflecting on many things. It is at times reflecting on what's working well, where the fractures are, where the philosophy is broken, where it's doing well, where the opportunities are, where I'm lost, where I'm elated. And those feelings of my soul are represented in the form of a female voice, which represents my soul. It's like the Sufi and Sikh traditions where the soul is represented in the feminine form. So we selected a female singer, and she's from Lahore, Salima Khwaja. She's also sung for Coke Studio. We have selected her, and she gave her heart and soul. She has learned. She's not with a DNA from Bhai Mardana's lineage. What partition did was it divided a syncretic tradition of where the Bhai Mardana's descendants used to sing for years and years, centuries inside the Gurdwaras. But that entire thing got divided. And when the Bhai Mardana's descendants, because of their faith, came to Pakistan, the patronage was lost because the Sikhs had left. And this entire tradition kind of finished off. Bhai Ghulam Chand, who was a descendant of Bhai Mardana, Guru Nanak's lifelong friend, he's no more. But Salima Khwaja is a lawyer. She learnt from him. So she has acquired the DNA of Bhai Mardana. And we found, when we were looking for my soul's voice, we looked in India, Pakistan, around the world. We couldn't find that voice. And that voice was in Lahore, in Salima Khwaja. We took her, but here's what we faced as a problem. Because it's an art form, Salima has been, Guru Nanak's verses are written in about 37 rags. She had learnt quite a few rags, but she didn't know all the rags, right? But we liked her voice. And we had a mandate that she's going to sing only in the rags that Guru Nanak has sang. Now, she gave her heart and soul for 8 to 9 months. And across the border, on the internet, Satninder Bodal trained her for the rags that she did not know. It took us 8 months to get her to actually fill the gap. And then she started singing. And that female voice represents my soul. So she's a great talent. And then I want to also acknowledge in the last piece, Niazuddin, again, Niazuddin Hunzai. We have a huge body of music, background music, which is changing by the countries, by the locations. But for the entire Islamic world and Pakistan's different regions, be it Sindh, Balochistan, Baltistan, Iran, Iraq, or the Saudi Arabia, all that music has been given by this one person, Niazuddin Hunzai. And he's a man of talent. The amount of instruments that he can play, I have not seen anyone else do that.
Yeah, please carry on. I just wanted to point out that throughout your documentary, it actually shows as well all this talent was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think it's this. It's not. It's not. We don't need to be kind of thanked for it. It's every. You know, they say every spoke of a wheel is important. Even if one spoke breaks, the entire wheel cannot run. And that's exactly what this docu-series is about. Even if one person was missing, I think the entire experience would not have been good.
Right. I wanted to actually come to the website also, but I will first take a detour because you have brought up the issue of music. And while you call it, it is a tapestry and you talk about allegory, but I thought that it was also about symphony of life. And why am I saying it? That you are actually tracing multiple things simultaneously. On one side, you are identifying which rag is being played. Then you are also, actually tracing the lineage of the Rababis. And you took us to places where I did not know within Pakistan that they existed or there was this tradition. So help me understand, how do you, when you are talking about the 9th generation or 10th generation of Rababis, how do you trace them down and identify them and play their music on air?
Well, this is where I I don't have an answer to this other than the fact that this is all I call as a divine enablement, divine intervention, divine hand holding us. Who are we to do anything? We can only think. मैंने पहले ही कहा था, when I've spent so many years delving inside various traditions, I'm an engineer, I'm an MBA by qualification. I've run the corporate treadmill for 25 years, but I've lived a different life in my mind elsewhere. And when I think, I've started believing this to myself, that when you have shown to the divine your commitment to a cause or to a bigger purpose, then I think at one point the divine chooses you and then starts opening the gates, right? In 2014, when I was doing these two books, Lost Heritage, The Sikh Legacy in Pakistan, The Quest Continues, I didn't know this was going to be my journey. But one thing has led to the other. Connections have developed. How did I connect with Salman? How did I connect with Kamran? How did I connect with Salima? How did I connect with the Rababi traditions? It's a journey of 7.5, 8 years after my corporate life. But before that, I've invested 30 years just in isolation trying to delve into this subject, right? So I think I always say this, who are we to tell how did we do it? We are just an instrument for delivery. When the divine chooses you to deliver something, then every gate opens up for you.
Right. Right. But mercifully, while you were actually not answering this question about time or how much time it took, mercifully, while talking to me just now, you gave me a number, 7, 8 years. That is huge time and huge commitment, sir. We are going to continue this discussion. We have to take a small break. When we come back, I'm going to actually resume the discussion from here. Take a break. Welcome back to PTV World Special. We are focusing on a documentary series on the life and journey, internal journey, inner journey, and a temporal journey of Baba Guru Nanak Sahib. And to help us understand what went into the documentary and what the life and message meant, we are joined and we are continuing to discuss with him Amardeep Singh, who is the producer, executive producer, director, and presenter of Allegory, a tapestry of Guru Nanak's travels. So, Amardeep Singh, coming back to the documentary, I want to actually now talk about the website and the decision to actually use a website as a platform, because at this moment we have many technologies that are there. For example, there is OTT technology, Netflix, Amazon, and Curiosity Stream as well. And then there are channels. Why did you decide to keep it open source and on a website?
I mean, I think you have already answered it by saying that it's an open source. That exactly was our objective. Now, having said that, we've not made it fully open. So by going to an OTT, what it does is it limits the audience to the members of that OTT platform, right? And that means I can't open it up to the world. So that's a negative of going to the OTT. The positive of going to an OTT is that, of course, a high quality stream like this creates OTT creates an aura around it. But our objective always was, the way I call it is, this is a free narrative langar. I mean, the langar which Baba Farid initiated in Pakpatan, the langar which Baba Guru Nanak initiated in Farrukhabad, it continues around the world. People eat. But what about the narrative for our soul? Right? And that, through the narrative of Baba Guru Nanak, we wanted it to be open. The challenge that we face in going to the website, of course, is bandwidth issues, cost becomes high, reaching out to the people. But we believe that if the narrative is right, people will rally around us to support it. That's number one. The other thing is that we have an objective out here that, it has taken us good 3.5 years of the field and then stitching to put this entire 24-episode docu-series together, but it's in English language. We also know that the English language is not the language of the masses, but our objective is to get it delivered as a second phase in Punjabi, and then what we will call as a mixture of Urdu and Hindi, so that it can run on both sides of the border for the masses.
Right.
In order to do that,
just one second.
Just one second. In order to do that, we need to raise funding, because to do anything in the media, it costs a lot of money, right? Because this is 24 episodes, 20 hours of content, replicating in Punjabi and then in a mix of Hindi and Urdu, it will require money. And so while we are an open source, you come to our website and see it, but we also have an appeal out there that if you like the narrative, then some of who come there, if they feel like helping us, then they donate, and langars run like that. And with that, then we will create these next languages. That's why we've decided to go this way.
Right. And just to remind our viewers, the website, it is the Guru Nanak. You can see the words actually will appear on your screen as well, thegurunanak.com. And this is the website. All these episodes which have been released so far, 5 of them so far, are available to view, and it is they are totally open source. You can view them. You don't need any paywall or any you don't come across any kind of obstacle. So coming back to what you were saying earlier, you were talking about langar too, and this is an amazing part of Sikhism, the Seva aspect of the faith. And I say this because recently we have seen that in India and Pakistan and elsewhere as well, wherever some tragedy struck, for example in India, when oxygen-related deaths were taking place due to COVID, at that time we saw that the Sikh brothers were at the forefront. So explain to us how this Seva part actually comports to Baba Guru Nanak's message.
Well, you know what, there are 2 things I'll say from his spiritual message. At Sultanpur Lodhi, which is now on the India side, it is said that Baba Guru Nanak went inside the water, inside the river Bain, and he emerged after 3 days. Basically, he must have gone on the forest on the other side, and then he must have appeared. The people who have written the stories have written that he came and he said, "Na ko Hindu, na Musalman." Basically, what he's trying to say, be a human first. Don't divide yourself. But you know what? He didn't say that in his own words. People have written the story as that. But exactly what he has said is, "Eko dharam, dride sach koi." He says, truth is the only, righteousness is the only thing that's accountable as what is your faith, right? And if you're going to be true to yourself, the fact is, then he says this elsewhere, which we will repeat in our episode, I think 22nd, when we are coming from Afghanistan and entering Parachinar in Pakistan through the Kurram region. There is one narrative that Bhai Mardana passed away in Kurram region. There's another narrative that says he traveled with him to Kartarpur Sahib. But we did want to give space in the Kurram region. And along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, on the Afghanistan side, in the Kurram region, when we were filming, there are some remnants there. And in that, we have sung a Shabad of Guru Nanak, a verse of Guru Nanak, in which he says, Hum Admi Ha Ik Dami. I am a man because I exist of the last breath that I took. There is nothing I'm going to take from this world. Whatever is here is for the everything is going to be left here. That's essentially the truth, and the fact that when you realize that we don't take anything from this world, then the whole thing is service and upliftment of the humanity's soul. And in many ways, a lot of people ask me this question about, in this journey, what has been your spiritual upliftment? I say, when you're doing such a complicated project, you don't have any spiritual upliftment on the field because you're managing a huge project, budgets, your teams, your challenges on the field, the narrative. The fact is, someone has to give up something for the collective consciousness to grow. And the way I look at it is, if we have given up something, that's our service for a narrative langar. If the collective consciousness across mankind can learn something out of this, this also is a langar, right? That's the way we have learned from Guru Nanak.
Absolutely. We are actually coming to the end of the program, but there is one gentleman, one name that you have brought up repeatedly throughout the documentary and in this program as well, and that is Mia Mardana. It is important because he was accompanying Baba Guru Nanak throughout these journeys, and then of course the origin actually comes from a Mirasi family, and then you actually highlight that he contributed as well to the journey. What is his station when you look at this entire journey? In this journey, what is his station and what is his role as a companion throughout this journey, sir?
Well, I think first and foremost, I find it very unfortunate that while the society has developed over the years, but yet our mindsets are very, very, very still ingrained or tied up in the caste differentiation society. And I think even in today on the Punjab, on East and West, sometimes they look down upon the word Mirasi. I think it's a beautiful word. Music is something that uplifts your soul. And Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana forget about what caste they were from, what social status they belong to. We know Mirasi typically gets put on the lower caste status of the subcontinent, which is very unfortunate. The two of them spent 22 years together just traveling. They both knew each other in Nankana from before, but they traveled 22 years, right? And going through all the challenges that we'll be facing on the field. I think what one needs, this is my personal interpretation. Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana are two sides of the same coin, right? Both needs to be given the same respect and same status. And I think collectively they were trying to teach humanity something. When Guru Nanak would say, Mardana, Bani ai hai, Rabab Chak, right? So he would start playing the Rabab. Guru Nanak, probably in my time, in the narratives that the people have written, a lot of time Bhai Mardana is shown to be facing challenges with the society, with his own hunger, with the loss of wealth, this, that, a lot of narratives around that. The way I look at it is, Mardana probably is a representation of the human challenges in the physical body, and Guru Nanak is a representation of the soul, and the two together are trying to tell the world something.
Right, and that is a beautiful summation of how this story actually unfolds. I'm told that we have to conclude the program here. Amardeep Singh ji, thank you very much for your time. I think that what you have said about Bhai Mardana, that is also very important. Regarding Miras, Miras is the word which is literally translated into heritage, and heritage is very important. So of course all these words regarding caste should not be viewed negatively. But you have very rightly pointed out that this is a story that needs to be told, and you have told it beautifully. Amardeep Singh ji, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for talking to us. Viewers, you have listened to the maker of this and presenter of this very important documentary series, Once again, let me remind you how important it is to understand. First, for a Pakistani like me, who has traveled a lot, but still there is this cultural zeitgeist that perhaps we could not break through. This documentary does a great job of reaching out to the truth and the diversity and beauty of this land and 8 other countries as well. And simultaneously, when you talk about Pakistan's contribution or legacy, remember, Bhai Mardana is a very important personality in this narrative, and yet I don't know how many Pakistanis would know about him. Baba Guru Nanak, of course, many would, but this journey, this duality, this unity and diversity is also our legacy. And then the message of unity of humanity is something that we absolutely need at this moment. Once again, let me remind you where to find this documentary. The website is called thegurunanak.com, TheGurunanak.com. So this was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.